अस्सलामुअलैकुम। वी आर डिस्कसिंग जून 2021, पेपर इज 23। सबसे पहले इसका थ्रेशोल्ड देख लो। जून 21 23 और इसका थ्रेशोल्ड है, दिस पेपर हैज अ थ्रेशोल्ड ऑफ 40 आउट ऑफ 60 फॉर ए। A property of vector quantity that is not the property of a scalar quantity is direction. For example, velocity has direction, but speed does not. Two other scalar quantities has two other vector quantities. कोई भी आप मेंशन कर सकते हो, जैसे मास और स्पीड। वेक्टर में two properties that are possessed by both scalar and physical quantities. जो ऐसी प्रॉपर्टी जो दोनों में आ रही हो वो मैग्नीट्यूड होगा और यूनिट होगी। A ship at sea is traveling with a velocity of 13. This is the velocity of the ship in a direction 35 degree east of north in still water is shown. Determine the magnitudes of the components of the velocity of the ship in north and east direction. इसको आपने simply resolve करना है। ये दो कंपोनेंट निकालने और सॉल्व करने, फिर आपने इसको सॉल्व भी करना है। और फिर वो कह रहा है द शिप नाउ एक्सपीरियंसेस अ टाइडल करंट, द वाटर इन द सी मूव्स विद अ वेलोसिटी ऑफ 2.7 to the west. Calculate the resultant velocity component of the ship in the east direction. अब इस यू कैन सॉल्व इट, क्या आप इसमें आपको VW दिया हुआ है, VW भी पता है, और वेलोसिटी ऑफ द शिप है, शिप रिलेटिव टू वाटर भी पता है, तो वेलोसिटी ऑफ द शिप रिलेटिव टू वाटर प्लस वेलोसिटी ऑफ वाटर, हमारे पास इनके वेक्टर्स हैं, और ये जो शिप है इसकी वेलोसिटी आ रही है टुवर्ड्स वेस्ट। हम इसमें हमें जो डायरेक्शन निकालनी है इन द ईस्ट डायरेक्शन निकालनी है, जबकि हमारे पास जो 2.7 है वो वेस्ट की तरफ है, तो आप उनको चूंकि ऑपोजिट वेक्टर्स हैं तो माइनस कर दें, और माइनस करके ये वैल्यू आ जाएगी। अगले पार्ट में सेज कि यूज योर आंसर्स टू बी पार्ट 1 एंड बी पार्ट 2 डिटरमाइन द मैग्नीट्यूड ऑफ द रिजल्टेंट वेलोसिटी। हमारे पास दोनों कंपोनेंट्स हैं 11 और 4.8। ये 11 पिछले पार्ट से आया हुआ है, ये जो नॉर्थ कंपोनेंट है, और 7.5 हमारे पास, और अब ये जो रिजल्टेंट आया है, जो अभी आया है, वो 4.8 है जो ईस्ट कंपोनेंट है। तो आप उनको पाइथागोरस से यू हैव टू कंबाइन देम। ये वर्किंग शेयर करो, वर्किंग कंपेयर करें। Then he says, use your answers in B part 1 and B part 2 to determine the angle between north and the resultant west. अब वो आप दोबारा एक छोटा सा डायग्राम बना लो, आपके पास दोनों डायमेंशंस हैं, और ट्रिग्नोमेट्री यूज करके एंगल निकाल लो। Define acceleration. Acceleration का formula, sorry, acceleration की वो famous definition है rate of change of velocity. नीचे उसने ग्राफ दिया हुआ है. A stone falls vertically from the top of a cliff. The figure shows the variation with time of the velocity. ग्राफ में कर्व है और इससे नजर आ रहा है कि एयर रेजिस्टेंस एक्टिव लग रही है. एक्सप्लेन द डिफरेंस बिटवीन फोर्सेस एक्टिंग ऑन द स्टोन, द शेप ऑफ द कर्व. शुरू वेलोसिटी तो बढ़ रही है बट वेलोसिटी इज इंक्रीजिंग एट अ डिक्रीजिंग रेट. और इसका मतलब है कि एक्सेलरेशन है इसमें ना. वेलोसिटी इंक्रीजेस इसका मतलब है कि द एक्सेलरेशन is decreasing. Force and acceleration are directly proportional, so force का भी वही ट्रेंड होगा. Acceleration reaches zero after 20. Use figure 2 point remainder speed of the stone when the resultant force on it is zero. The resultant force zero is becoming here when the graph has become horizontal. This one. So use figure 2.1 to calculate the approximate height through which the stone fallen between 0 till 30. So it means is the area. So 0 till 30, you have to find the area of this figure. So we can make boxes here and we can see how many small boxes are there, how many big boxes are there. It's basically an issue of box counting method. And in box counting method, you have to see how many complete boxes can be found. So for example, I have a complete box here, this one. And this box will be 5 into 10, which means 50. You have to look how many big boxes are there. And then there is a small box also. This is called an average box. it would be the area of this box, this one will be 2.5 into 5. This is the size of this box. So we have to count the big boxes, medium boxes, and then the smallest box which can be counted. For example, this is the smallest box. So ये हमारे कोर्स का एक बड़ा मुश्किल टॉपिक है बिकॉज इसमें टाइम बहुत लग जाता है और you can see that in 5 space there are 10 boxes. So one small box would be, there is a very small size, this one. So there are total 10 in 5. So there is a difference of 5 and there are 10 boxes. So it means one box will be 0.5. This is the way. So one size is 0.5 and on the y-axis, if you see on the y-axis, there are 5 boxes in 5 division. So it means this small box is 1 by 0.5. Means 0.5. So this is the method. Now in the whole of this figure, the whole area under the thing, the big boxes, count the big boxes, medium boxes, and small boxes. And this is a very challenging job in an actual paper. You have to count the big boxes and they have to multiply it by medium boxes 12.5. This is a procedure. box counting method, and this is a very big challenge in the exam, that you have to count all the big boxes or small boxes. Now, actually, first you should cover the big boxes. Then if you get with the small boxes, separate them. And then in the end, very end, you will be left behind. You will be left behind with the small boxes. The very on the edges, you will find the small boxes. So you have to count them separately. So first count big boxes, then count medium boxes. In the end, count the smallest boxes. In this way, we are count them. So big boxes can be counted easily. The big one, 50, 50, 50, you can count them easily. And then on the edges, you will find some small boxes. Once you get the small boxes, medium boxes are limited, and you have to count them, and then you have to add all the area. This is a very challenging method, and it is called box counting method. Now he says in part 4, sketch the variation with time of the acceleration of the stone between 0 and 30. Acceleration initially decreases, and then it reaches 0. So acceleration has to come down, and it will touch down to x-axis. This is a case of terminal velocity. This is the shape. Acceleration is coming down until it reaches x-axis. It's a basic shape. Define the moment of force. Moment is the product of force and the perpendicular distance from the pivot. The figure shows a type of balance that is used for measuring mass. Now he has shown us a rod which has a pen, a spring to hold it, and there is and it is having a pointer. A rigid rod is pivoted about a point 6.2 from the center of a pen, which is attached to one end. The object being measured is placed on the center of this pen. A spring attached to the rod 1.8 centimeter from the pivot is attached at its other end to a fixed point P. The spring obeys Hooke's law over the full range of operation of the balance. A pointer on the other side of the pivot is set against a millimeter scale, which is a distance 52.6 from the pivot. When the system is in equilibrium means that the concept of with no mass on the pen, the rod is horizontal and the pointer indicates a reading on the scale. An object of 0.472 kg is now placed on the pen, 0.472. Initially, the pen is empty. As a result, the pointer moves to indicate a reading of 120 millimeter on the scale when the system is again in equilibrium. So when he will put the object here, when he will put a pen, the pointer will go up. So if you put a mass here like this, it will move like this. And here the pointer will go up. The pointer will go up and the beam will be inclined. It will reach equilibrium again. Show that the increase in length of the spring approximately 1.3. When you put the load, the spring will stretch down and spring length will increase. It's again a ratio method. Initially, the spring is unstretched. Now, you have to draw a diagram. You have to show the similar triangles because the rod is moving. So you have to show the ratio here. And then using tan theta, you can find the value. Then he says, calculate the magnitude of the moment about the pivot of the weight of the object. अब इसमें simply moment is equal to force into perpendicular distance from the pivot. वो method लग जाएगा और उसमें आप formula डाल के value निकाल लें. पहले weight बन जाएगा, वो force है. Use your answer in B part to determine the increase in the tension in the spring due to the 0.472 kg mass. यहाँ पर प्रिंसिपल ऑफ मोमेंट लगा ले. क्लॉकवाइज इज इक्वल टू एंटी क्लॉकवाइज. use the information in B part 1 and your answer in B part 3 to determine the spring constant K of the spring. Give a unit with your answer. स्प्रिंग कांस्टेंट का जो हुक्स लॉ का फॉर्मूला है वो लगेगा. Question number 4. State the principle of superposition. Principle of superposition क्या था? If one wave has a height of y1, the other has a displacement of y2, then y1 plus y2. When two waves are moving in opposite direction in the same medium with the same speed, and they are having the same wavelength, the resultant displacement is the sum of individual displacement. Two waves with intensities I and 4I superposed. The waves have the same frequency. In terms of I, the maximum possible intensity of the resulting wave. Intensities do not add up directly. Intensities need to be scaled with amplitude. So you have to put them together like this. For maximum intensity, using the idea of constructive interference, coherent light of wavelength 550 nanometer is incident normally on a double slit of slit separation 0.35 millimeter. A series of bright and dark fringes forms on a screen placed a distance of 1.2 from the double slit. So they have given the values. This is the value for A. This is the value for D. And this is the value for lambda. Determine the distance between the centers of adjacent bright fringes. He means to ask X. You have all the values. यहाँ पर उन सब values को आप डाल दें इसमें और put करके solve करें. Then he says the light of wavelength 550 is replaced with red light of a single frequency. State and explain the change, if any, in the distance between the centers of adjacent bright fringes. The table, वो जो wavelengths का table है, वो मैंने कहा था कि जरूर याद कर लें because that's very helpful. So X is proportional to lambda. So when you do that, you have to simply put the comparison कि रेड का जो वेवलेंथ है वो इससे ज्यादा होगा और एक्स और लैम्डा प्रोपोर्शनल है. जब आप लैम्डा बढ़ाएंगे तो फ्रिंज सेपरेशन बढ़ जाएगी. Then you have defined the EMF. EMF की डेफिनेशन क्या है? इलेक्ट्रोमोटिव फोर्स की डेफिनेशन क्या है? It is the energy dissipated in driving a unit positive charge round a complete circuit. The circuit shown in the figure 5.1 contains a battery of EMF E that has an internal resistance R, variable resistor, a voltmeter, and an ammeter. Readings from the 2 meters are taken, voltmeter, ammeter, for different settings of the variable resistor. The variation with current of the potential difference V across the terminal XY of the battery is shown. Now he has made a graph. explain why V is not constant. What is V? V is the voltage across the battery, which is called terminal PD. So when you change the resistance, the terminal PD will change. So you will tell the examiner that voltmeter is measuring terminal PD. It's not measuring the EMF. Circuit is live. So terminal PD will change because external voltage will change. For the battery in B, use figure 5.2. 5.2 is there, or you have to find EMF and the maximum current. You have to extend the graph. देखो आपने ग्राफ को बड़ा कर दिया, इंटरसेप्ट ले लिया. When it touches the x-axis, it will show the maximum current, and where it touches the y-axis, it will be showing EMF. So EMF is 7.4, which is the y-intercept, and maximum current is 0.92. Then internal resistance. Resistance is the gradient. It's V upon I. So you have to find the gradient of this sketch. Then he says, sketch a line to show a possible variation with I of V for a battery with a lower EMF. With a battery of lower EMF and lower internal resistance. अब lower internal resistance जो है y-intercept EMF तो EMF जो है ना वो basically अपने battery is for a show a possible variation I for a battery with a lower EMF. जब बैटरी का नई बैटरी का EMF कम है तो आपका लाइन नीचे आ जाएगा. उसने डेटा दिया हुआ है. अब आप थोड़ा सा नीचे कर दो, उसे नंबर्स तो नहीं मार्क करें. और इंटरनल रेजिस्टेंस कम है, तो जब इंटरनल रेजिस्टेंस कम है तो ग्रेडियंट भी कम हो जाएगा. तो आप लाइन को थोड़ा स्लोप कर दो और नीचे ले आओ. Now, question number 6, the famous nuclear physics, quark composition of proton, UUD, ये याद कर लेना चाहिए. न्यूट्रॉन इज UDD. इन अल्फा पार्टिकल में 2 प्रोटॉन होते हैं, 2 न्यूट्रॉन होते हैं. तो फिर आप उसको उसी हिसाब से लिख लें कि उसमें बेसिकली ऊपर वाले दोनों आ जाएंगे ना, 2 प्रोटॉन 2 न्यूट्रॉन. तो 2 प्रोटॉन का मतलब ये होगा कि 2 इंटू UUD और यहाँ पर 2 UDD. इनको मिला के लिख देंगे. In the alpha particle scattering experiment, alpha particles were directed at a thin gold foil. State what may be inferred from the observation that most alpha particles pass through the foil. Now, because most alpha particle, because most of the atom volume is empty, the observation that some alpha particles are scattered through angles greater than 90, ये वो जो बहुत ज्यादा deflect हुए, because alpha particles are positive and nucleus is also positive and the nucleus mass is highly concentrated. Now, this part, C part, is not in course now because it is electric field. ये हमारे कोर्स में अब नहीं है. And electric field was in our course till 2022 और अब ये हटा दी है. So we keep it up to here, and this paper is mashallah completed, and we will continue in our next class. Allah Hafiz.